the journey to Mecca. When they reach Hudaybiyah, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is confronted by Quraysh and signs a deal, a pact, a treaty, that this year they will not make Hajj. This year, you have to turn around and go back home. And we know the details of what happened in that pact and the disrespect Quraysh showed him, but the patience that he responded with, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After he signed this pact and this treaty, he told the companions, take your ihram off, go back. None of them responded. They're emotionally upset, hurt. We were going to make Hajj. We're going to see the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're going home, and now we have to turn around. Prophet ﷺ goes to his wife Aisha radiallahu anha and tells her, they're not listening to me. What am I supposed to do? She said, you take your ihram off, and they were going to follow you. Prophet ﷺ did that, and as Aisha radiallahu anha advised and said, the companions took their ihram off. Imagine the feelings that these companions had. So upset and so hurt. But something that we can take from this is the reality, brothers and sisters, that we don't control the circumstances of our lives. We may intend for something to be good. We may have gathered all of our things, we have planned, we've done the best that we can, but sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a figurative curveball. We have to make a pivot and alternate. We have to call an audible because of the way that the circumstances that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for us. What is it that we're going to do when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends these tests in our lives? How do we respond to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is demanding and commanding of us in this specific moment? The Prophet ﷺ showed us what it is and what it means to think with a long-term vision. What it is and what it means to be strategic in the decisions that we make. And the companions, they showed us the human element of things. That we can hurt and we can be in pain. But the reality is we don't control the circumstances of our lives, so much of them. Brothers and sisters, as we are living our lives, we must plan. Ibn Umar, he said, live your life as if you're going to die tomorrow and plan as if you're going to live forever. We need to make intelligent plans, strategic plans, with long-term vision and thoughtfulness into how this will not only impact us, but other future generations that are come after that. We need to think, how is this not only something that's good for us, but how is this something that's going to be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then our responsibility is to put in the work. Our responsibility is to take that journey just as the companions did when they were going to make Hajj. And if and when things turn, when we're no longer able to do what we wanted to do, when circumstances, because of our own actions or those that lie outside of our actions happen, that's when we now have to reassess. We have to ask ourselves what it is that we're going to do. Brothers and sisters, I'm not even talking about politics. I'm not talking about what's going on, who our president is. I'm not talking about what's happening in Gaza, in Sudan, even though at the same time we are. What are we doing in our own individual lives? What are we building for? What is our intentionality? What are we trying to achieve? And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us these pivots, what do? How do we make the best out of our circumstances? Because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-alim al-hakim. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is muqallib al-qulub, the turner of the hearts, the most knowledgeable, the most wise. How do we reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala despite the circumstance, despite the fire that we figuratively find ourselves in? How do we use this as an opportunity to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Something that we learn from the Prophet ﷺ and the companions is that they were going off together. They weren't alone on this journey. And they had a leader who was designated and chosen for them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of us to follow in their footsteps. When we're going about our lives, planning and making decisions, how and what is the criterion that we're going to use to determine what's best for us? Do we have companions that we go back to and we ask and we do shura after praying Salat al-Istikhara? Is this good for me? How is this going to aid me? How is it that I'm going to be able to earn Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure through the circumstances that I find myself in? But then we have to ask ourselves, khalas, I've made this decision, or this decision has been chosen for me. How do I have ihsan in my execution of it? How is my execution, my deliverance, my follow through going to be in the absolute best way possible? Despite what it is I find myself in. The companions, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them, were objectively upset about this. So much so that the Prophet ﷺ complained and sought shura from his beloved wife Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha. But when the command came, when they had to follow the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the leader whom they had chosen told them this is what they're doing, they obeyed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes things for us in our lives, they go against what we want, that we're able to follow that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us and surrender lovingly and willingly to His decree. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people that have good companions and good friends around us, so that when these things happen, we're allowed to find their shura, their consultation, and when things happen, we do it with ihsan. وَأَقُولُ قَوْلِي هَذَا وَاسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهِ وَلَكُمْ سَلَمُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا وَتُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wahda, wa salatu wa salamu ala man la nabi ba'da amma ba'd. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, Inna Allaha malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi, ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa anhu wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, life is full of peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us seasons when things are incredibly difficult, in seasons which we feel like there's a force, a wind pushing us, and they're incredibly easy. Both of those seasons has an adab, has a characteristic, a decorum that we're supposed to have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the first khutbah, we talked about the difficult times, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us those things that test us and challenge us, forcing us to be better. But then what do we do when things are good? How is it that we connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when things are just happening, whether intentionally or unintentionally? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending us these open doors, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making things easy for us. Because the responsibility of that time is equal, if not more, than the responsibility when things are difficult. Because now this is when we're going to be tested. This is when we have an opportunity to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we're figuratively running downhill, it's easier for us to go, but we have to be thoughtful and we have to be controlled. We have to be intentional about every step, because the momentum perhaps can take us and we trip and we fall. So how is it that we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these difficult times? We have to remember to constantly turn back to Allah and be mindful of the fact that none of this is happening because of anything that we are entitled to. None of this is happening because we're special. Perhaps none of this is happening because of any special thing that we did or because we are who we are. Hasha lillah. This is all happening because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed it for us. But equally, when times are bad, it's all happening because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that we can handle it and is testing us. But when times are good, can we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can we do tasbih and tahmeed? Can we praise Allah and thank Him for the goodness that we have? When we find ourselves making mistakes and falling short, whether it be due to our laziness or our sinfulness, can we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us? Can we reevaluate who it is and what it is that we're trying to do and who we want to be, so that we can get back on that straight path and maximize the time that we're in? Brothers and sisters, our days of our lives are numbered. The breaths that we have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows them. The blink of our eyes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how many each and every one of us are going to take. Are we going to waste this life that He's blessed us with, so that we can earn His pleasure, so that we can be in Jannat al-Firdaus al-A'la? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants goodness for us. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمْ الْيُسْرَ وَمَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمْ الْعُسْرَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants goodness and ease for us. He does not want difficulty for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to turn to Him in ibadah, not for His sake, but for our own sake, so that we can be with Him in al-Firdaus al-A'la. Are we going to waste it? Are we going to be heedless? Are we going to use it for petty, simple squabbles and frustrations because of things that in the larger scheme of things we actually caused ourselves? Are we going to use it and waste it on things that if we just shifted our thoughtfulness, if we shifted our mindset about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then perhaps we're able to see the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in it for us? Brothers and sisters, we have tremendous opportunity. We have to be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and praise Him. But we also have to check who are the people around us. Because the people that are with us when we're going up are the same people that we need to check when we're coming down. When times are difficult, we need to know who those people are. Are they going to aid us? Are they going to support us? Are they going to advise us with nasiha salihah, good, true nasiha that's going to help us get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But also when times are good, who are the people around us? Who are the people that are encouraging us? Are we reaching out? Because our friends and those that we seek counsel are only as good as we use them. They're only as good as we rely on them. They're only as good as we take the advice that they're giving us. If we don't, then we're wasting their time and our time. If we don't, they probably love us for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want to give us this advice. But if we don't do it, then we can only blame ourselves. فَلَا تَلُومُنَّ إِلَّا نَفْسَكَ. Brothers and sisters, we have to be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to check those people that are around us. And then we have to make sure we're doing our absolute best. Can we exhaust ourselves? Maximize the moment that we're in. In times of difficulty, that means that we recuperate. We come back together. We analyze, what are we doing? We go back to those that we love for support. We see what it is that we need to do for this moment that we find ourselves in. For times of difficulty, we make sure that we're strong in this grounding that we're standing in, so that inshallah no shifting happens again. But in times of ease, we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do with this ease? And that's in every dimension of our lives, whether it be physical or financial, whether it be social in our community settings or in our family settings, whether that be in any aspect of our lives. Can we, when times are easy, figure out what is the adab that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is demanding of us? What is the disposition that I have, both internally and externally, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What we see from our brothers and sisters in Gaza is an embodiment of this. This morning, my wife and I watched a video of a young boy who made a blender so he can make hummus, connecting a couple electric wires, a handmade, making the best out of an objective, horrible situation so that he can eat good hummus. What are we doing in our times? Are we trying to make this figurative blender that mixes things together to make good out of bad? Or are we sitting back complaining, woe is me? He wanted to eat hummus, he figured out a way to do it. We want to eat the goodness in this life or the next, what are we figuring out to do? Brothers and sisters, again, it's not worth it. It's not worth the complaining. It's not worth the frustration, the anger. It's not worth the problems that we cause for ourselves, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed it all. What do we do? How do we turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make the best of every situation? And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make things easy for our brothers and sisters in Gaza, things easy for our brothers in Sudan, in India, in Kashmir, in the Congo, in everywhere where our brothers and sisters are suffering, whether it be internationally or nationally, whether it be in Virginia or in this masjid right now. Ya Allah, remove the difficulties in our hearts, remove the challenges in our pathway, and allow us to be loving, merciful, ihsani people, excellent people in every aspect of our lives, both spiritually and emotionally, both physically and how we interact with others. And we ask you, Ya Allah, to make us a people that never forget you, that never overlook the blessings that you've granted us, and allow us to see the difficulties and opportunity to turn to you, Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahman Rahim, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam ajma'in. Aqim salam.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
There are two dua requests for Mahbooba Yubi and Maqbool Ahmed. They both have passed away. They're a family of loved ones here. So keep them in your du'as. That's Mahbooba and Maqbool, inshallah. استووا استووا تراصوا استقيموا لا تختلفوا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have a few announcements for events this weekend, but before that, there is a special there's a special state Senate primary happening in Virginia. As a 501c3, Adams Center does not endorse or oppose any political candidates, but we do welcome all candidates to speak, and we strongly encourage civic engagement and voting. And we have one of those candidates here today with us, Brother Ibrahim Samira. If you could direct your attention to the right side of the musalla and give him a couple of minutes of your time, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To State Delegate Ibrahim Samira, we're not in the normal place over here.